Being it is a holiday, we have changed over here and doing it on a Wednesday. Been gracious enough to come in, Mayor Bob McManus. Good morning.
Good morning.
So here we are at the end of another year in the office for you.
Yep. And I would like to congratulate you all on what a great job on the weather report you did, getting us all prepared for 3 to 5, and then we get 1 to 2. I like the way y'all did that. I was listening to this morning when Mike Warren was on the phone with Chris Hawley, the street superintendent, and he made a statement that they were expecting 3 to 5, and when he woke up and it was 1 to 2, he was pretty happy. So I was as well.
I talked with him on the Inside program yesterday, and we had talked about the figures that have been thrown around, what it costs to do a full plow. And he said it was pretty close to $30,000 to do every side street, and when you have the amount of overtime and the amount of time that's spent doing that, and gas and equipment and all the things that goes into it, that's probably what it costs. And as I was out there pushing that out of my driveway this morning, I thought, just stand out there with your little debit card, and you should have a little slot on the side of the snowplow. Put your money in here. you like this service? Here you go.
That's a great idea.
They've got that. I watch them on TV now. They just hold it up to it, and it reads their information. So
right.
You can donate to the snowplow fund. We got the pothole fund in the city going. So
all the extra funds help. That's for sure.
Yeah, we talked about that at length here. That's probably one of the things that last year and this year, as we kind of recap the year, that is going to be an issue, is the budget.
Yeah, well, it always is. It's always something you work, and that's why, before I just didn't, I kid about not liking the snow. I mean, it gets old after a while, but boy, when you're watching the numbers and stuff, you really, every day that goes by that we didn't have a major snow event, we're certainly very happy about that, because those things add up. And on a daily basis, throughout the city, there's little things that can add up. So anytime we get a break from that, it's very nice.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus, you can too here on AM 1450 WDLB's Insight program on a Wednesday this time, unusually. Well, lead story this morning here, if you're watching us, you may know more, as I always say, in the days leading up to this. This is broadcast on video on channel 989 throughout the month, but a special session of the City Council last night. Tell us about what happened.
Well, it was a special session, where the council authorized the city administrator, Steve Bard, to file charges against Rick Gramza with the Police and Fire Commission, and which is what they call it. So that I want to be very, very clear with people when they hear filing charges and whatnot. There's, he has 2 separate issues going on. The one that is with, that is a legal battle that they're going through, and that is a criminal in nature. And these are, the charges that Steve will be filing today are administrative. And so it was a very healthy discussion, very robust. And if you've followed the council at all over the last 4 months, we've been in closed session after just about every council meeting being up. You'll remember that back, I believe it was on early August, when the chief went on the second, voluntary leave. Then we started an investigation for the city part, and as well, it was also given out as criminal in nature, and those investigations were taking place at the same time. Of course, giving the lead to the criminal investigation, because the city part for employment things, we really don't want to impede anything like that, which is why theirs came through and closed first. And so we basically just got, a report, And Steve has been in review with the attorney there, and they did file the charges. And there's some significant issues there that realistically there's just they are looking for him to be removed. It just can't lead the police anymore. And the police officers union, they did a thing of no confidence about a month ago, and last night all 10 council members, it was a unanimous decision after a 2-hour robust discussion of things going on, and it was robust. It was emotional, and it was at some points it got loud. The gravity of it is just what has to be done. The gravity of it is just enormous. And what we didn't want to get lost is how incredible our police department is. This is a serious issue. This is a serious issue, and we don't make light of it. But our police officers, the men and women behind the badge, do such an incredible job. And this whole thing, this whole time, has had to be an incredible burden for them. And so, we all want them to know that we're behind them. The citizens have been incredible showing that they're behind them. So now what happens is it goes to, this complaint now goes to, we're following the statute of Wisconsin, statute 6213. So now those charges, because we have in our city, we're I think one of 7 or 8 in the state, where our police and fire commission has what's called optional powers. So they are the ones that in essence do the hiring and the disciplinary measures all the way up to termination. So, and you do that by filing charges. Somebody can't just be let go. You'd be breaking the Wisconsin statute, so you can't do that. So it has to go to them, and it's Wisconsin statute 6213. And on there is a very clear way of how this has to take place. And technically they're supposed to they're supposed to give the charges to the commission, and once the commission receives it, they've got 10 to 30 days to set up a hearing. And so, that's the technical thing. Now, a lot can happen with that to where it can get delayed. But the way the statute reads, that's very, very clear, and that's what's going to be followed. So there would be a open hearing or trial that would be open to the public, where the charges are read, and then both sides are able to present their case.
As a conduct or termination issue, I mean, it sounds like another almost parallel court case the way you have it, when you use words like charges, and then they'll have a hearing in front of the public commission, in front of the police and fire commission.
But understand that these have nothing to do. These have no criminal allegations or anything. That's separate. That's not associated to this. This is regarding city policy, and city policies that would appear to have not been followed.
So the council cannot terminate.
No.
By itself.
No.
That's a statute.
That's statute.
That's not a union thing.
No, that's not a union thing. That's where police and fire commissions have that. Now, for cities that don't have the optional powers, I believe then it does sit with the mayor and the council. But we have, the way we have it is they have optional powers. They're the ultimate authority, the PFC, the Police and Fire Commission. And because on a monthly basis, the Police and Fire Commission, 5 members, all from the public, meet with the chiefs and other police officers and firefighters to go through, and this is all public meeting, to go through the bills that are getting paid that month, bills coming up, training exercises, new hires. They really take care of everything. We pay the bills, the city pays the bills, but they are in charge of all of that. And that is something that is unique to our city, and like I said, 7 to 8 others within the state.
So at this point in time, though, for the public, it seems like, oh boy, this is just the beginning of a long, painful process. It seems like whether it's the court, and that's a situation unto itself, how the pleas go, I mean, this was only an initial hearing from the most recently with Police Chief Ramza. And then it will continue to have testimony and hearing. I mean, you could be bringing up a lot of people with a lot of names and a lot of different things here. This could be get nasty and very public.
You are correct.
just preparing the citizenry here for what could happen. The plea agreements may be made, and you can't refuse to testify, so either that or it is jail time. So, I mean, there's going to be names and people brought up here because of the internal workings that could be a long, drawn-out, ugly process. This could get ugly, as they say.
You're correct.
And so, the public service, I keep saying the public service, the Police and Fire Commission, their situation and the hearings would be asking who to come in. People that would give positive or negative testimony, and his continued to be as a chief.
Well, my understanding now, you have to understand that this is very unique, so I'm going to give you my understanding right now, but it is an understanding, and what we've noticed about this whole thing is it's very fluid, and it changes all the time, and it's been very frustrating for extraordinarily frustrating for the public, and extraordinarily frustrating for myself and the council, because we hear things like we should see something next week, and then a month later we're still like we're past next week, and so you have to be very sensitive to that. So my understanding at this point is we are filing the charges, so you would have our version of it, which the employment attorney would be taking care of. Not the city attorney. The employment attorney would be taking care of that, and then if Rick Ramza attorney would be taking care of his side. And so you'll have the normal going back and forth, even though I want to be very, very clear, and I know I've repeated myself a lot already this morning, but this is an administrative hearing, if you will. So we're not going over anything that is criminal. I want to be very, very clear on that. These are administrative policy issues, and both sides present. And so, just as in other types of proceedings, there could be delays, there could be all kinds of things. So the statute says one thing, but you have to remember right now, COVID is taking place. So you got to get everybody on the same page as far as a date that they could all meet. Where would they all meet? That's all negotiable. And so those things are definitely going to take time.
You and I both know, and you said to you just now that you're repeating yourself, that there's going to come a time when people finally start hearing the lingo, if you will, or the vernacular, and they're going to go, wait a minute, I thought, and they are going to get confused because it is so similar. I mean,
right.
The charges being filed, hearing, all this stuff, and that's why you're being trying to be as specific as you can of separating the two situations between employment and criminal situation.
Right. What is taking place at the Wood County Court has, there's maybe some similarities, but ours is the charges that are filed are all for administrative issues and what we believe are policy breaches, and that's the way it is right now. So the document should be over to be delivered to, well, it was authorized last night, so technically today that could, hopefully that document gets out to all the police and fire commissioners. And this is all uncharted territory for everyone. I mean, you remember, these are citizens. These are, these aren't people that that work on this 40 to 50 hours a week. So there's going to be a learning curve there. And everybody wants to do what's right. Everyone wants to do what's right. So the main thing that the public is, although believe me, I share in the public thing of, geez, how long does this take? But there are processes that you have to go through. The statute, we can't change the statute. That's the statute. So during that time, pay continues to happen, everything else, and that's very irritating for a lot of the public. Believe me, I've heard it. And there's really nothing we can do about that. This has to take its course.
The problem is that in order to have all of the right questions to ask for the Police and Fire Commission, you almost have to let the criminal situation play out in order to know who are all of the players. In asking
because again they're separate. The charges that are coming from the city are very clear cut.
Well, it should be obvious. I mean, to most citizens that talk to you, it's like, well, what are we waiting for? Well, we're waiting for the fact that so far there is no. We know what the allegations are. If you're going to terminate someone on behalf of allegations, that's a slippery slope. So you have to let this happen in order to let things go, don't you?
The charging document will be very, very clear, and it will be very clear for you to see.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Mike Warren here from the WDLB newsroom.
Basically, the way I figured it out is sometime between January 9th and January 29th. Is there a time limit on this thing that they have to look at this?
You're right, we did it because statutes today, 213, 3 and 5 subsections. You're right, it has to be.
Now, I'm not sure of the dates that you're saying, but technically it should be a hearing between 10 and 30 days is when there should be. However, when councils on either side say they need time to do things, that can be extended. But the initial part needs to take place within that time period. Then what everybody agrees on, as long as it's in the appropriate time frame, is fine. So this is where the statute says there needs to be contact made and everything else, but there's all kinds of things that can take place for delays. Hopefully there won't be.
So as this plays out, again, the council voted to allow him to stay as an employee, or I guess are going to let that go to the Police and Fire Commission, but are going to have to keep him on the payroll?
That's exactly what it is. It's the council was very clear to authorize Steve Bard to file administrative charges seeking removal of the City of Marshfield Chief of Police Rick Ramsey, and that is what the charges are, or that is what will be in the charges. So when that gets delivered, then it should be very clear from them what the intent is. And so, but we need to make sure that we stay away from the criminal side of this, because even though it's, you're saying similar words, charges and things like this is administrative.
Well, under what statute or union contract would we have to continue to pay him while allegations play out? Or was that a decision?
That's a statute.
That's the way it reads?
That's in the statute. There's no way around that until there is a determination. You can't just unilaterally do that. Otherwise, you would subject yourself to some very serious potential legal consequences.
So he's going to have $104,500 in annual base wage continue, and a $1,200 car allowance. The allowance sounds like something you could have pulled. Or is that a contract agreement that you just can't tamper with until Police and Fire Commission.
The Wisconsin statute 6213 is very, very clear. Until a determination is made, pay continues.
So you don't have to go to your alderman and say, what the heck are you doing? In other words, it was laid out for them what they can and can't do, and that was part of the meeting.
Right, this isn't anything that anybody can, we don't have a stipulation over. If you breached that and did something different, your potential for legal issues is enormous. And so, believe me, cost is on everybody's mind. Believe me, it was brought up. It's on everybody's mind. And so this is why going about this in the proper procedure and not just going off and saying, okay, we're done. You have to follow a procedure so that you protect yourself from causing bigger issues.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus here on a Wednesday instead of a Friday on the final days of December 2020 here about undoubtedly the biggest story of the year for the city council for sure, and most business in general for the city, and the amount of time that it's taken to do this and yet to come is going to be interesting. Whether pleas are made and testimonies are foregone, or whether or not this is going to play out and everybody's going to be down at the courthouse, it remains to be seen yet. You can call us 384-2191 here, 384-2192 on today's Inside program.
Hi, it's Nikki Reiner, the Wenzel Family Plaza Director, and we have some exciting news here at the Plaza. As you can see behind me, we have an ice skating rink going up in the Plaza. We are so excited about this. We are partnering with the Parks and Rec Department, and this should be up and running by latest next week. As long as the weather stays colder, we will finally have this beautiful ice rink in the Plaza. We are so excited to bring this to the community, and I hope you guys are as excited as we are.
WDLB's Inside program coming to you here on a Wednesday instead of a Friday. The first Friday of the month would be New Year's Day as it lands this year, so the mayor has been gracious enough to come in here on a Wednesday ahead of time and record the program. That will be able to be seen at Marshfield Media Access or at channel 989 on your Spectrum Digital tier of channels. I invite you to tune in and watch, as the look on your face was precious. There's nothing I can say. And he's like, what do you want me to say? Yeah, that's about all you can, I guess. And that's been frustrating for the citizens throughout this whole process, is that there isn't a whole lot. Well, we can't say that we don't know. I mean, with talking about the situation of Marshfield Police Chief Rick Gramza being on paid leave until a court case plays out where he's facing some serious allegations, and we just talked about why he's still on the payroll, and it's not a matter of what the city can do at this point yet.
Right.
So it plays on, and people get frustrated going, I wish you would, or I hope I should say, that you put in this much time in hiring as it does to take to get rid of somebody. It seems like this is, very thorough, and you hope that amount of scrutiny has gone into so that we don't wind up in this situation again. And there have been times, in the past police history that were a few blemishes from time to time. It happens at all levels, in private business as well, but you don't hear about it because when government gets involved, everybody knows. It's like having everybody's salaries published. It's a thing that you go through by being a part of governmental employment. So
right.
It's tough. So that's probably the number one story this year that has caused you the most concern and time spent thinking about it. But I was alluding to earlier here, budgetary issues too is probably up there, because that's a constant that's going to live with last year, this year, decisions were made, and what has been the response you've gotten from the public to the increases? I guess it's kind of a dumb question in the sense that
We're back to that stun book that I have.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. They're coming up going, Bob, that's great. It's sometimes you have to do things, and I mean, I will be the first one to say it. Back when COVID first hit, I mean, we've had 3 major issues that we've had to deal with. We just got through discussing one of them, and it's got to be handled, and it will be handled. And I understand everyone's frustration because I share it. I completely share the frustration of the length of time and everything else. The key component to that is we are paying attorneys pretty fair amount of money. And we are going on the advice that we're given, and that is what the public expects. If we start going down a different road other than the legal advice we're given, that would not be a good thing to do. On the budget issue, when COVID hit, I was adamantly, we can't raise taxes. And as we got closer and we started looking on how if you don't take care, we were in a position where if you don't take care of it now, and you kick the can down the road, which the city for years has done too much of that, kicking the can down the road, the amount of what I would call mistakes that have been made that we're finding and clearing up was very, very high. And this particular one with the tax, with the monies that all monies were accounted for, they were just put in wrong. And I will tell you, it just made me, I used to have black hair, and now look at it. It was amazing when I sat there and we had CPAs and financial advisors and all this other stuff saying, didn't you see this? Why didn't you bring it out? And you hear the song and dance, and it's like, what are you talking about? So when we started to see this year with the initial hole that was there, even though we temporarily fixed it last year, if we would have went with a minimal tax increase this year, that hole would have gotten deeper and deeper and deeper, because no one was going to be ready to do the right thing and fix it. And this is the thing. I don't know what Moody's is going to do, but I mean, a big thing of, we got downgraded one time, and then they said with a negative feature, something along those lines. And that basically, and when, our representative from Ellers came and said, they don't think that you all are going to fix this. And so they're saying negative to prepare you to go even lower. What that does is, if it goes lower, now that takes the interest rates when we do go out to borrow, it takes the interest rates up pretty fair amount. Now, we just went, when we borrowed some money this year, we refinanced a lot of debt and we got it like 1.5% interest. Now, just think if your credit rating goes up from 1.5 and so the interest rates you get, instead of being 1.5 or 2, maybe 2.25 on millions of dollars, that is a substantial increase. And then what pays for that higher debt? Taxes. So with making the decision to make the full thing this year and go up 7.4%, which was our side of it, that gets us now to where we're actually paying our bills, which we hadn't done, I think Ron Almond said, since 2011. We're finally doing it right. That's the story. They're caught up and they're doing it right. Now, we're not going to hear anything about getting caught up and doing it right. We're going to hear about all the other stuff. That's the nature of the beast. But the amount of money that could potentially save is, in the Moody's rating and everything else, is tremendous. And I will go back to the fact of, myself and the council members for the last several months have been dealing with the issue that we just spoke about, the budget issue, and COVID. And I'm here to tell you there have been a lot of sleepless nights. And each night you're not sleeping because one or the other one. One takes precedent over this one on Tuesday, but then on Wednesday this other one just the way it is. But now, where we are and what we did this year is we're actually, our annual budget is actually less this year than it was last year. I mean, city staff cut so much, and I wish there could have been, I wish they would do a documentary on what the city staff actually did to see where they had to go to cut, and at the same time that they're cutting, they're kind of forcing systems to come in place that there's more efficiency. All of that is taking place at the same time. We never hear about that. Of course, who would? But so there's another side of this that you really see. Now the public, and I got my tax bill too, and I got mad at me, I guess, because, at least of course I wasn't the one that made the vote, but it was necessary. But what this will mean for the future of the city finances can't even be put into words. And so although it hurt, we're caught up. Now we're not going to be able to use the same excuse that we have for 2 years. Well, nope. Now we're done. We're actually paying our bills. We're doing it right. We've got so many different looks, relooks. 2 times a year now, the city finance director comes and gives a presentation on the TIDs and where are we at financially. I mean, there are some older folks that are just financial hawks. They want constant updates, and that's good. We're looking at it. That's really what should have been taking place all along, but it wasn't. Okay, spilled milk. Now we've got the things in place where that kind of mistake is not going to happen again. There is a lot of oversight that has increased, let's just say, and there are questions, hot seat questions constantly. But now, where we're at with the budget, we're in a good spot, and so next budget season we should be in good shape.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus the final Wednesday of the month of December, because the first Friday of the month, which would be our normal visit, is going to be on New Year's Day, on the holiday. So he's been gracious enough to move it up a couple days and come in and explain a few things to you here that are happening at the city level that you will hear and continue to hear about. It seems like the ship seldom moves in a hurry. It's always a slow turn when you're talking governmental issues. It takes years in order to do things where in the private sector you can make a decision and head in that direction immediately. But it doesn't work that way when there's all kinds of people involved, and that's probably a good thing. It's, government is set up that way. Our four founding fathers laid it out so that everybody has a chance to be heard, and hopefully every opinion will come in. Some not as welcome as others, but nonetheless, they're all able to be heard. There's a couple of things that you mentioned here in conversation that I might want to clarify for the average citizen. When you talked about TID, that's a tax increment district, is what that stands for, meaning that parts of real estate in the city are taxed at different rates in order to pay off bond issues or loan issues that went to improvements for that district of the city. And then you mentioned Moody's, and that's where that comes in. People say, well, why are we borrowing money all the time? Well, because we don't have a vault where we're keeping all of our extra. Because if you have anything like it's commonly called a slush fund or any kind of extra, people are, it burns holes in pockets in government all the way up to federal. And the next thing you know, when you need it, it's not there. Being money ahead is not advantageous in government. You want to be on what's coming in is going out, and you want to be pretty close to the flow here.
Correct.
So you need to borrow if you're going to get anything done. And that's where this Moody's is an agency that is the bond rating company and determines your level of interest, just like everybody has a average credit rating.
Correct. In essence, they're going to give you what people deal with on a daily basis is their credit score. And so our Moody's rating is still in a good column. But again, they're going to, and what I was really alluding to is what a tremendous thing that the council did in grueling meetings. I mean, just meetings that where I could think of one meeting where something took place, hold on, 5-minute recess, and we had to say, wait, can't do that, got to do it this way, and looking for options. The real key thing that I is when we actually went to make a motion on what tax issue, or what the rate was going to be. If you notice, it was always everybody was kind of on board to do high, because somebody could have made a motion to go lower. The alderman realized that something had to be done, and I will say that I do not always agree with everything that some of the members on the city council, their decisions or anything like that. I think it's healthy, though, very healthy, that I don't agree with everyone and that they don't agree, that they have a good dialogue, and here's my, this is my position, and they should be different, because you don't want to see that rubber stamping of everything. And with this council, I will say that, they're like that. They'll get into it every now and then, and they're getting into it for the good of their constituents. Their statements are based on what they think is the right thing to do. And I really saw that play out in the budget. And that night when we actually went to vote on it, I mean, you could hear the churning stomachs in there. You could hear that they realized that, I think where they were going to vote and how it was going to be. But they also, what was paramount on everybody's mind, and why we worked so hard on send it back to city staff, cut here, see what you can do here. This looks like we can take a little money out of here, send it back, and going back. Everyone was concerned with the net effect that this was going to have on the public. Everyone. Because there are some people that can absorb, ours was 7.4. But the overall, remember, there's 5 taxing agencies on the on your city bill. The overall tax increase was, I think, 3.4%. Well, that's what it was last year. So the 3.4% is really far more palatable, because that's the accumulation of your entire tax bill. So, that would mean that everybody's taxes on a $100,000 home, went up, I believe it went up about $78 on a $100,000 home. $200,000 home, you double that. What is it, $156? So $300,000 home, and so on and so forth. For a lot of people, that's very palatable. They can handle that. But there are some people out there that are on fixed incomes, and those are the ones that just, as everyone was making the decision on how they were going to vote, you could just see that their mindset was, what is that $80 going to do to that person on a fixed income? And that is significant. So, and you saw all those things play out. So if you were really there and you took, if somebody would have come from out of the area, maybe they would have come from Texas to watch, I think they would have been thoroughly impressed, because they would have seen democracy in action. They would have seen a painful meeting, and they would see that everything was being done with the right intent. Now, of course, here in Marshfield, when we all got our tax bill, that wasn't a pleasant day. And why the tax bills are sent out a week before Christmas, I don't get, but it's just the way. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
So, talking with Mayor Bob McManus here of budgetary concerns and the tax increase as one of the top stories in the city here in the year of 2020. That has been discussed on this program over the years as to when reevaluations happen or don't happen, that this has to come in chunks like this. Then it's hard for everybody to swallow. If we were to do this at a more graduated pace, because we're, as you stated, we're not that far off from where we have been in the past, but because it looks like 7%, boom, over the years we haven't moved up. So now here we are. Now again, this is all precipitated by a budgetary snafu that we've had in
Right.
2 years ago. But even at that graduated pace, it's been discussed that why don't we do it that way, as opposed to, it seems like in this city we go a 5-year chunk, instead of doing it a little bit at a time. And I don't know if the citizenry thinks they're just trying to sneak one by the goalie when you do it a little bit at a time, or if you think that...
So you're bringing in two different things here. The first chunk, I like the way you did that. Let me talk about the first chunk. The first chunk is when we did this here, this wasn't a reevaluation. This was a true financial issue. The evaluation that you're talking about is when property values are reassessed. Because if you go through Wood County right now, they're off. They're low, I think. They're probably between, if it goes below 90%, it could be an issue, and I think we're at 87 or 88. Your taxes are based on that. So when you do a reevaluation, the price of the home goes higher, right? So effectively then my taxes are going to go up. But the mill rate comes down. We saw that in, I don't remember if it was Stevens Point or Wausau, where their tax rate went from 1040 down to 970. So you look at it and like, oh, that's a decrease. Well, the value of their home went up. The value of their values went up because they did a revaluation. This is the problem that I have with the way the state does this. It makes zero sense to me at all. You could see by what's taking place in real estate throughout Wisconsin. Real estate values are going up. Real estate values are going up because more people are purchasing a home for a lot of different reasons. Some people are purchasing homes because interest rates are at a great thing, so they can afford a little bit more of a home, supply and demand, all these different things. Well, so you see the state will put out home sales and home values have increased in the state by 3.9, I'm using hypothetical numbers right now, so by 3.9%. But then when they send us the numbers on our evaluation on the way it could go up is 1%. It's like that 2.9%, now multiply that by 10 years. And then, Jeff, people sit around and they go, gosh, how is our evaluations, how are they so far off? Because you did it every year. It should be that if you're going to say that home values went up 3.9%, that's where you take the assessed value. And then everything would be very clean and easy. It wouldn't cost the citizens and the municipalities this enormous fee to go out and do this type of evaluation every 7 to 10 years. If they could just get it to where it would make sense. But I will be the first one to say that what we see from the state, that's some magic math, that you will not see that in high school or college. It is magic, and it is frustrating because it can change on a dime. And quite frankly, it's wrong.
And you wind up taking the brunt of it.
Yes, the citizen does. I mean, this is the problem. I'm taking off my mayor hat here and just, the citizen does. And it's just wrong. But one thing government does not tolerate hearing is that they're wrong. I mean, the excuses are just, you get to be, you've got to be kidding. And that's just, unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. Many of the issues that are there, what we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on, could be alleviated with a little bit of common sense and not duplicating some of the same efforts.
Well, there you go again with that common sense.
That old common, and believe me, it's I mean, I remember when I went to the first one of my first what do you call those debates. I ran on that, and I still go by that. And sometimes when they're just saying it's too simple. When I wanted to put through, when COVID first hit, and that's a third story. When COVID first hit, there's no mayor handbook on how to handle a global pandemic. But we saw the pain, and we saw that there was stuff there for businesses with the PPP. There was the stimulus for other folks, but you've got businesses here that had to, what are we going to do? You look at the restaurants, and okay, now you can't have people in your restaurants. So you look at family restaurants, like Krabby's or Lumberyard, Nuts. We all know all the different restaurants and whatnot that are used to serving people. Now their whole business one day gets thrown from that to now they could do curbside and they could do delivery or pickup. They had to completely change their business model. And then there were other businesses that didn't have that luxury of being able to do it. You look at like haircut facilities, where you go, salons or barbershops or whatever. They're just closed. Well, what's there for them? Nothing. What was there for small business? The PPP was great. I mean, who wouldn't want a 1% loan, and a good majority of it was possibly going to be forgiven? And if not, you just got a lot of money at 1%. And that program went from idea to distribution in 2.5 weeks. That was $1 trillion program. And then when I started to see what was taking place and I was hearing from local folks, I called Josh Miller and got him on the phone with Mackie and a few others so that we could do the business grant. And we moved that from the initial idea to funding on the street in about 3 weeks. So there are things that can move fast. It's just government typically doesn't. They're always worried about other things going. But COVID has been, I got to give it to Marshfield Clinic Health Systems. They are the distribution center for the vaccine here. Their whole business model changed for a long period of time, and they've done well. And every day it's like you're opening a business because you get something out of left field. We're very happy right now with the amount of infections that have been going on. Seems to be on a downward trend. What we have noticed is the amount of testing that has been done has dropped substantially. And I'm on a call, as you know, with several different places, Wood County, the clinic, and a lot of different leaders within the city every Thursday. And I asked them, is that because we don't have enough tests, or is the demand for testing down? And they have said that the demand for testing has been down. So where we were doing 18 to 20,000 tests per day, it's not uncommon now, is somewhere between 5 and 9,000 a day. So we still have a high amount of infections, 2,000 or so. One day last week was even 600. But that's down. So, and yet you look at what's taking place in California, where they're getting 35,000 a day. So we're just holding on. We are just holding on. But it's such a tremendous group of people, and I will tell you, I know we talk about the legal issue going on with the chief and the budget and the COVID and everything else. During this last hour, while you and I have been in here, the city has been running incredibly well. The folks at City Hall are doing what they need to do. development is doing what they need to do. The police and fire departments are running. Street is running. The thousands of things that they do every single day that go unrecognized, I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of our city staff. What they've had to do this year under these extraordinary circumstances and do so well and so efficiently is something that everybody can be very proud of. Unfortunately, what we'll talk about nobody's going to talk about things that are going great. It's not interesting. But for the people that are listening, you can be very proud of your city. And the aldermen that you have, they care. And we are looking very forward to 2021, turning the corner on COVID, getting life back to some normalcy. We don't know when that's going to be. In the meantime, wear your mask, wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. If your kids are sick, keep them home. And if you do go out in big places, be socially distant. Just do the right thing.
All right, Mayor Bob McManus, thank you for taking the time to be in here on a special day for us here on the holiday.
Thank you. I'll see you next year.
Yes, that's right. Oh, yeah, the famous line, right? Talk to you next year. All right, here on today's Inside program with Marshfield Mayor Bob McManus.